All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Matt Bendrup, Justin Smith, Travis Steer, and Matt Bergdorf. We're going to present on United Airlines. As you guys know, United Airlines has been in the media recently with a couple of incidents involving a patient being escorted off of the plane in a violent way, as well as that world record rabbit that mysteriously passed away. So, going to give a little bit of background information. Justin's going to go over the problems that United Airlines has been experiencing, and Matt will bring us home with the solutions and implementation. And that's what we're going to do today. Oh, there we go. So a little bit of background here on United. They are the third largest airline in terms of revenue. They're headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, and they were founded in 1927. Couple of interesting little footnotes here about about United Airlines in the awards arenas. They were actually voted in 2013 as the best flight experience by USA Today, and in 2014 the Sustainability Outstanding Achievement Award. And of course, in 2017, I thought this was kind of funny. They were already voted the Eco Airliner of the Year. So we're going to talk a little bit about their corporate social responsibility measures and what they're doing to create a sustainable future for both the airline industry as well as the world at large here. So they have a Eco Skies sustainability commitment, which is the first airline, U.S. airline, I should say, that utilizes a low carbon biofuel, which is 65 to 85% lower than regular jet fuel. So the benefits of using this are twofold. It actually saves United Airlines money, as well as provides for more sustainable future with using the much more expensive jet fuel, as well as it's better on the environment. So the fuel efficiency and reducing emissions, these are their 2016 goals. The 2017s were not up yet. So their goals of last year were to improve fuel efficiency by 1.5% versus 2015, in line with the airline industry goals. They continue to expand their conversion from fossil fuels to electric ground service equipment, and they're the second airline that makes that transition besides Southwest Airlines, actually. So they also are going to expand availability of electric vehicle charging stations to employee parking lots to encourage adoption of low or zero emission vehicles. So the connection I want to make here is kind of bring back to the class when we talked about Fiji, and that they were doing a little bit of greenwashing, telling the public they're doing one thing and doing another. This is actually a step where United Airlines is actually going above and beyond to take their message outside of the airline industry and still incorporating them with getting the passengers to and from the airport. So that's a really good example of of what to do instead of greenwashing like Fiji did. Next, we're going to talk about the alternative fuels. In 2015, United also made a historic $30 million equity investment in U.S.-based alternative fuels developer Fulcrum Bioenergy, so to expand their supply of sustainable fuels even further in the into the future. So a little bit more about the Fulcrum Bioenergy partnership. It's actually the largest of its kind in the United States. So think of this in terms of from trash to takeoff. So it's essentially working to utilize recycling like you and I would do with cans, but this is more in terms of recycling fuel and then harnessing it for biofuel. So taking the trash and making it into fuel for the airplanes. So the trash is first collected and delivered to a Fulcrum facility. There are over 60 of these in the United States. Trash is then processed and converted into the sustainable aviation biofuel through a series of measures and corporate measures that they use to ensure that the fuel is going to meet the technical requirements. The fuel is then 80% less carbon intensive than traditional fuel on a life cycle basis. So essentially, they're able to save 80% of the trash that is sent to them and harnessing that into biofuels. Again, that's much helpful for the environment, as well as a huge cost savings for for United, which is the identified shared value there. So next, I'm going to talk about the sustainable products and waste management. So in 2016, they started serving ill coffee on all flights. This is just a coffee bean. Growers and processors earn above market wages in exchange for eco-friendly farming practices. Again, the idea here is shared value. So they also incorporated in 2016 the cowshed skin products. These are all made from sustainable resources, contain no parabens, petrochemicals, sulfates, animal ingredients, artificial colors, and of course, no animal testing. They've gotten pretty big reviews on the internet for this, and they were the first in the nation of airlines that incorporates those two facets of the onboarding experience. And next, I want to talk about the stakeholder and customer engagement. This is their commitment to reduce their environmental impact. Requires a lot of collaboration, and we'll discuss this a little bit more going forward. United proactively works to engage all of their stakeholders, including customers, coworkers, partners, and policymakers, to develop and implement meaningful environmental initiatives. So they realize that it takes a lot more than just what they have within their United Airlines corporation, that's actually working with United States leaders and developing future processes that help make it eco-friendly. And I'm going to pass it on to Justin, who's going to talk about the other problems that they're facing today.
My name is Justin Smith. We're going to talk through some of the problems. Matt did a great job of talking through all of the really great initiatives and the accolades that United has received recently for their especially work on kind of the ecological side on getting past fossil fuels and working towards some recycling measures. On April 10th, 2017, however, the public pretty much had a reason to ignore all of those accolades and all of the things that United was doing very well when they were provided with kind of a horrible spectacle when Dr. David Dow was dragged off of a plane. United Airlines Flight 3411 overbooked their flight and needed to remove passengers in order to accommodate a flight crew. After no one volunteered and accepted their small financial incentive that United Airlines was offering, they randomly selected passengers. Dr. David Dow was selected, and he refused to leave the plane. He was on a cell phone. His wife was on board. He was telling the flight crew that he could not step off because he had patients to see. However, the Chicago aviation officials were called, and Dr. David Dow was eventually dragged off the flight. When they pulled him out of his seat initially, he hit his head on someone else's armrest across the aisle and was bleeding, which added to the really horrible nature of the optics that can be seen in these videos. I recommend anyone that hasn't seen it, go to YouTube, CNN, wherever. The video has went viral and can be found anywhere. United Airlines calls these events involuntary deboarding situations, which is a term that shows, I think, how far removed they are from how badly this is going to play in the press. The problems were made even worse by the CEO, Oscar Munoz. He created more controversy with his comments on the incident. He said, "Our employees followed established procedures for dealing with situations like this. While I deeply regret this situation arose, I also empathically stand behind all of you, and I want to commend you for continuing to go above and beyond to ensure we fly right. This statement, where he does not apologize to Dr. Dow and does not take any responsibility for what happened, shows how he underestimated what the public's visceral reaction to this video would be. These are comments that he would later regret. The fallout after the video went viral was immediate. United Airlines lost nearly $1 billion in value as the price of its stock plummeted. CEO Oscar Munoz eventually apologized for his previous remarks and accepted full responsibility for the unfortunate event. While he was not fired, he was kept from receiving a promotion that he was scheduled to receive later in 2017. The board stated that part of the reason was his reaction to this event. And recently, the company reached an undisclosed financial settlement with Dr. Dow in exchange for him not to bring up a lawsuit against United Airlines. This incident involving Dr. Doe brings to light a number of problems within United Airlines. There are really four that we're going to look at. The first is regularly overbooking flights that serves as a catalyst for these events. The second is only offering limited financial incentives for passengers to give up seats. At the time of the unfortunate incident, United Airlines could only offer up to $1,300 for a patient to give up a seat, which is just not enough. The third problem is relying on aviation officers to carry out deboarding situations rather than having their own flight crew trained in crisis management. And the last problem is that the CEO seemed unprepared to appropriately handle the fallout from the event. Now, Matt is going to talk us through some of our solutions and our implementation plan for those solutions.
Thank you, Justin. Well done.
Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, my name is Matt Bergdorf, aka Matt number 2, I believe. I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of how do we implement the solution for this problem. As you can see, the memes got out of control with this. We have Chuck Norris destroying the airplane itself. Any number of dozens of jokes that at the expense of United, just widely mocked in their handling of this situation. So the problem is overbooking flights. Airlines do this a lot. It saves a lot of money. And they're just trying to maximize their profits. Before the incident, the maximum was about $1,300 that the airline would kind of give up in exchange for that person giving up their seat. So in the case of that flight, it just either wasn't communicated that way or just wasn't enough. So how do we, what's our solution here? So what we want to do is, we want to find a pretty big number, but nothing that's too high. $10,000 is a nice round number. It seems like a lot of money to have that be the cap. And so not necessarily that's what each person's going to get paid, but having that number out there, it kind of gives people the impression that you're trying to change this. So the idea that we had was, instead of just arbitrarily coming up with a number for each flight, we could do an auction, sort of like eBay, but so you start at $500, and if anyone takes that, wonderful. If not, we'll go up in $250 increments. I guess somebody could raise their hand or press the call button, and then you could exchange your seat. And that will ensure that no involuntary boarding situations occur. And it creates a shared value, both for the airline and and the customers. Okay. Sustainability. So I saw a number that United has lost upwards of $1 billion in value. 1 billion with a B. That's a lot of money. So it's not just the amount of money that they're having to pay this guy out of court to settle. There's a lot bigger damage than that. So there's a lot more awareness right now. It's been in the news a lot about overbooking issues. But in the long run, this program should save them money that they haven't lost already. So we're also looking at changing up kind of the staffing for the aviation officer. So if we're just relying on these officers to carry out these deboarding techniques, even though they're not directly employed by United Airlines, it happened on a United plane, so the public doesn't care. It doesn't distinguish. So instead of relying on them to address these situations, we need to train select members of the flight crew in de-escalation techniques. There's a program that we use at SSM called Crisis Prevention Institute. It's used a lot in behavioral health and basically any crisis situation in the hospital that comes up. So it's a very rigorous, evidence-based program that helps people, help staff members de-escalate whatever crisis is going on. So we decided also that United will have one designated person at each of the major international airports to manage these crises. And it's sort of like the CIT officers that law enforcement has, those crisis intervention teams. And that's it. Thanks to you all for joining us. And we'll look forward to seeing all your discussion questions.